Dato Dr. Usman Bakar, Rector of IIUM, and all VIPs. Let us sing together the national anthem, Negaraku, followed by the ASEAN Summit 2025 official theme song, Our Land, Our Home.
ASEAN shines so bright, standing strong in the light. From dawnlit shores to twilight skies, together spirits high. Rhythms echo, voices sing, a symphony of hearts within. Kindness flows in every kind, hand in hand we bond together. Oh, ASEAN, united we stand, a land of dreams where cultures span. From rolling seas to mountains high, together become one and hearts align. United, together we rise, reaching for the skies. ASEAN, our land, our home. Flavors rich, traditions told, in every dish a past unfolds. Gathered close, our ties we weave, a feast of love in harmony. Rhythms echo, voices sing, a symphony of
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Yang berhormat Datuk Seri DiRaja Dr. Zambry Abdul Kadir, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia, Honourable Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Usman Bakar, Rector of IIUM, Mr. Matthias Ho, Executive Director, Leimena Institute, Jakarta, respected panelists and moderators, dean and directors, all honourable guests, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani. Selamat datang, ahlan wa sahlan, and welcome to the ASEAN Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy Forum 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy Forum is a joint initiative by the Center for Peace, Dialogue and Xenophobia Studies, PDX IIUM, the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, StratC and the Leimena Institute, Jakarta. This forum was inspired by the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, which calls for a resilient, dynamic and people-centered ASEAN, one that embraces diversity and promotes mutual respect among all communities. It also echoes Malaysia's Madani vision, where unity in diversity is seen as the foundation of a peaceful and progressive nation. Cross-cultural religious literacy is at the heart of that mission. It is about learning to understand one another across faith, cultures, and borders, and building trust and empathy through dialogue. Through this collaboration with the Leimena Institute, StratC, and our ASEAN partners, IIUM through PDX aims to strengthen regional understanding, counter intolerance and xenophobia, and promote peace through education. Ultimately, this forum is more than just a discussion. It is a step toward creating a future where mutual respect and harmony define our ASEAN community, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is my honor to respectfully invite Honourable Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Usman Bakar, Rector of IIUM, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. Yang berhormat Datuk Seri DiRaja Dr. Zambry Abdul Kadir, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia, Mr. Matthias Ho, Executive Director, Leimena Institute Jakarta, respected panelists and moderators, all honourable guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor and gratitude that I, on behalf of the International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM, warmly welcome all of you to the ASEAN Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy Forum. We are deeply appreciative of the trust placed in IIUM by the Ministry of Higher Education and our partner, the Leimena Institute and StratC, to host this timely and significant event. This forum comes at a historic moment for our region. Just a few months ago, ASEAN adopted the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 in Kuala Lumpur, a vision for a resilient, innovative, dynamic, and people-centered ASEAN. Among its noble aspirations is to cultivate an inclusive and cohesive community that respects political, social, religious, cultural, and ethnic diversities. It is indeed fitting that Malaysia, under the Madani vision, takes the lead in translating this aspiration into action, beginning with the promotion of cross-cultural religious literacy, or CCRL, as a bridge of understanding among ASEAN peoples. For IIUM, this initiative resonates deeply with our own mission. As a university founded to integrate knowledge, faith, and compassion, IIUM believes that education must serve humanity by fostering peace, justice, and mutual respect. We see CCRL as not merely an academic exercise, but as a transformative approach, one that nurtures empathy, strengthens social cohesion, and counters prejudice and intolerance in our plural societies. This forum, therefore, represents more than a dialogue. It is the beginning of a regional movement for shared understanding. By bringing together scholars, policymakers, and civil society leaders from across ASEAN, representing different faiths and intellectual traditions, we hope to build a common platform of trust and respect that can sustain regional peace and cooperation. IIUM, through its newly established centers, such as the Center for Peace, Dialogue, and Xenophobia Studies, PEDIX, the Institute of International and ASEAN Studies, and the International Center for Dialogue between Islam and Confucianism, stands ready to contribute to this regional agenda. We are committed to working with our ASEAN partners, with our universities of ASEAN, in transforming CCRL into a sustainable educational and policy framework for our future generations. In this spirit, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to the Minister of Higher Education, Dato DiRaja, Dr. Zambry, for his visionary leadership, and to the Leimena Institute for its pioneering work in Indonesia that's inspired this regional collaboration. May today's deliberations lay the foundation for a more cross-cultural literate, morally anchored, and cohesive ASEAN community. In other words, for a truly dialogical community. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and salam sejahtera.
Thank you, Dato Rector. Ladies and gentlemen, next it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Matthias Ho, Executive Director, Leimena Institute Jakarta, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berhormat Dato Seri DiRaja Dr. Zambry Abdul Kadir, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia, Honourable Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Osman Bakar, Rector of IIUM, respected panelists and moderators, all honourable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to congratulate Malaysia for the ASEAN Summit upcoming next week. I also want to express my highest appreciation and deep gratitude to the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, in particular to Minister Dato Seri DiRaja Dr. Zambry, and also to the International Islamic University Malaysia, the Honourable Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Bakar, for organizing this ASEAN Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy Forum in collaboration with the Leimena Institute. Thank you, Professor Emeritus, for hosting us in your beautiful campus. At the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur in May, as already mentioned by Mr. Rector this year, the new ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and its strategic plans were adopted. And in line with the ASEAN-Malaysia Chairmanship's theme of inclusivity and sustainability, the ASEAN 2045 goals include, under the ASEAN Political Security Community Strategic Plan, an inclusive and cohesive community that respects political, social, religious, cultural, ethnic diversities, which upholds the principles of democracy, rule of law, and good governance, and respects fundamental freedoms, promotes and protects human rights, and promotes social justice. I think this is really a groundbreaking and very important strategic goal as we see the condition in the world today that is becoming more divided and polarized. And one of the strategic measures to accomplish it, included in the ASEAN 45, is through conducting a series of cross-cultural religious literacy programs. So let me commend the IIUM with the strong support from the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia for hosting this forum as a concrete step to begin implementing the newly adopted ASEAN 2045. This is also very timely because just last year, at the 55th session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, reported that xenophobia and discrimination on the basis of religion or belief, gender, ethnicity, and migrant status are rising to acutely disturbing levels today. And therefore, he continued, to build societies in which expressions of hatred have become socially unacceptable requires, and he said, inclusive faith literacy. When we talk about cross-cultural religious literacy in this region, we are not actually introducing something new, but rather we are reminding ourselves that we in the Southeast Asia have lived in religious and ethnic diversity for thousands of years, and that in this increasingly divided and polarized world, we need to collaborate more closely and more systematically as neighbors to nurture the values and practices that have enabled us as diverse societies to live in harmony and peace. It is not only for the future of our own nation and region, but also for the world that will benefit from our experience in building an inclusive and cohesive community that respects political, social, religious, cultural, and ethnic diversities. I'm confident that our discussion today will make an important contribution towards that direction. And for that, I want to thank all of the speakers, participants from Malaysia and other countries who will make this forum a successful and fruitful one. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Matthias. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to respectfully invite our esteemed guest of honor, Yang Berhormat Dato Sri DiRaja Dr. Zambry Abdul Kadir, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia, to deliver his keynote address.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, selamat petang, apa khabar semua? Anak-anak, adik-adik khususnya. Tak senyap je pasal apa? Rasa tak sihat ke? Jumaat Mubarakah. Salam sejahtera kepada semua. Dan khususnya kepada our great teacher, great scholar, rector of the university, Professor Dr. Osman Bakar. Saudara Matthias Ho dari Indonesia, selaku Direktor Leimena Institut Jakarta, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya hormati sekalian, you don't mind I speak. Let me speak in my language first. You know, it's not only policy, because it is very important also for us to express, and to appreciate one's language, especially your national language. Kesempatan yang diberikan ini adalah sangat bermakna kepada kami semua. Khususnya ketika kita membicarakan soal dunia yang semakin dikatakan tidak selamat. Disebabkan oleh pertumbungan-pertumbungan yang berlaku. Maka pada beberapa bulan yang lalu, Profesor Osman, Saudara Matias, dan juga sahabat saya, Profesor Alwi Shihab, yang sepatutnya berada di sini sama-sama membincangkan Malaysia selaku pengurusi ASEAN pada tahun ini dapat melakukan sesuatu untuk keamanan dunia dan juga khususnya keamanan ASEAN. What I was trying to deliberate just now is on the importance of these forums. About a couple of months back when Prof. Osman and Professor Alwi Shihab, as well as Mr. Matthias, called me to have dinner, the so-called dinner. Of course, in show of respect to all of them, actually, they are like my brothers. I told them, okay, let's have dinner. It's not only dinner for makan, but also dinner for thought, actually, food for thought. And finally, we discussed something very important at that time, something that we need to do, at least something that we can contribute to create a peaceful world from a religious standpoint. Being a student of comparative religion myself, because sometimes I was from here doing my economics. I have Kaoni here. It's my great teacher last time. Yeah, was teaching us on comparative religion. Then further, I pursued my studies in comparative religion at Temple University. We have all the mafia here of the great teachers. We discussed this matter seriously then. What to do with our world today? What can universities like IIU, as well as Leimena Institute, can do something, at least to this region? And finally, we come together, and then today is the results of our discussion. So I must congratulate to Prof. Osman and Dr. Matthias for having this conference. Actually, this is the subject of my interest, though. I'd like to give another lecture on this, but due to time constraint, I have to rush to another function, a very important function. Today is alone. I have 4. We just finished our cabinet meetings, and then after this, I got to rush to another Hari Akademia Malaysia, and then after that, I have to receive Tunku Sultan Brunei, because this week is a rather busiest week for all of us, including the Prime Minister himself. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and my adik-adik, and I'm actually very delighted to see all of you, adik-adik in particular. You are representing our current and future generation. And I'm very happy to see students around here. Yeah, I'm not as much, as much as I appreciate the presence of our, speakers and scholars. Bukanlah saya tak respect scholars, tapi I think we have this, the younger generation who ought to know about the principle of coexistence, how we can coexist together peacefully. And just 5 months ago, let me read because they prepared something for me, so I got to, based on some of the ideas that I have also given to them. At the 46th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, our leaders reaffirmed their shared commitment to fostering an inclusive and cohesive community, one that honors our immense diversity in culture, faith, and heritage. under strategic measure 9.7 of ASEAN Political Security Community, we pledge to promote cross-cultural religious literacy program. And today, Malaysia take pride in hosting this inaugural forum to translate that vision into meaningful actions. My dear friends and ladies and gentlemen, for Malaysia, this forum holds particular significance. It aligns seamlessly with the Malaysia Madani vision, a vision articulated by our Prime Minister, Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim, as a moral and philosophical framework that places compassion or rahmah, respect or ihsan, and responsibility, amana, at the center of the national life, as also alluded by our Prof. Osman just now. The Prime Minister often reminds us that the Madani framework is not merely a political slogan, but a civilizational vision, one that seeks to harmonize faith and reason, spirituality and modernity, and diversity and unity. It reflects the same aspirations underpin this forum to nurture a society and a region that are humane, ethical, and deeply conscious of our moral responsibilities to one another. Yesterday, I was giving another lecture to another group, very important group, about the principles of Madani. How we strike the balance. If you see the principle of Madani, for example, you will see the 6 main pillars. 3 actually represent the moral, the very moral foundation of the visions. And another 3 is about technologies and how you create a sustainable world and so on and so forth. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you, that all those 6 principles are really presenting the right balance between one's life in this world and also in the next world, and also in the inner self as well as the physical self. We must not merely tolerate diversity, we must celebrate it. This celebration of diversity is not naive idealism. It is a recognition of our shared humanity, of our ability to draw strengths from difference and wisdom from dialogues. After all, we know the Quranic verse that you have. I suppose all of you already memorized it. Ya ayuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum syu'uban wa qabailan li ta'arafu. The principle of li ta'arafu, the principle of knowing each other. We are also building upon the inspiring experiences of our ASEAN neighbors, such as Indonesia, where collaborations between the Leimena Institute and government agencies have successfully advanced cross-cultural literacy through education and interfaith engagement. This example reminds us that when we approach difference with empathy and humility, we strengthen the moral architecture of our society. My dear friends, to truly embrace cross-cultural religious literacy, we must first understand the rich historical tapestry of our region, a tapestry woven not in conflict, but with encounter, exchange, and coexistence. That is the reality of ASEAN, comprising of different civilizations. It is a real linchpin where all the central and core elements exist here. When you talk about Islamic civilization, the tapestry of culture and the practices of Muslims, you find it here. When you talk about Chinese or Buddhists, we have also the pakar, or our expert here, scholars, and also the Hindu civilizations, and for that matter, even the Christians or Western civilizations, you all have here how it interacts with each other. From the enemy's worldview that honored nature and ancestors to the arrival of Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity, Southeast Asia's story is one of the interactions and adoptions, not conquest. The diffusion of faith along the maritime Silk routes gave rise to unique syncretic tradition from Srivijaya to Majapahit to Malacca that celebrated harmony and inclusivity. The kingdom of Srivijaya, for example, welcomed Hindus and Muslim scholars. Majapahit harmonized Buddhist and Hindu cosmologies. And Malacca, under Islam, maintained ties with Buddhist, Siam, and Christian traders from Europe. Conflicts that did occur were seldom about theology, but about trade and politics. Thus, long before the term ASEAN existed, our ancestors had already practiced what we now call civilizational diplomacy. Today, ASEAN continues to manage this inherited pluralism. I know when you coin the words pluralism, I have to be cautious about it a little bit, yeah. I don't mean anything. Please don't quote me that I'm promoting pluralism in that sense, yeah. You have to go back to the very root of the terms, yeah, to understand it, yeah. I don't know somehow why they use it. I have to read it, true. Anyway, let me explain that too, because you have to understand, because we are not as much as nowadays. People start talking about, about Abrahamic faith. When one of the statement made, one of the leaders, they said we are trying to create a new religion. So I said, well, we've been thought about the Agama Samawi, yeah, the Abrahamic religions. It's not Abrahamic religion, yeah. So if someone tried to create a new form of religion, they call it Abraham. Maybe some people misunderstood the term Abraham Accord to Abraham faith. So through what we call ASEAN ways and culture of diplomacy, grounded actually in consensus and non-interference, respect for diversity, informal, consultative decision-making, and harmony over confrontation. These same principles guided Malaysia's own foreign policy engagement during my tenure as Minister of Foreign Affairs, where we consistently emphasized the idea of diplomacy of humanity. I was lucky then because Professor Alwi Shihab was my classmate then at Temple University. When he came back to Indonesia, he was then appointed as a foreign minister too. So, anyone graduate from Temple now, normally they will, experience once in their lifetime. Well, maybe after this, the rector will be the one. Or maybe some of you. In every engagement, whatever addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, mediating through the OICs, or promoting peace in conflict-affected regions, Malaysia's voice was one of balance, empathy, and moral clarity. We sought to build bridges, not walls, to bring people together, not divide them. It was in those experiences that I witnessed firsthand how faith-based values and cross-cultural understanding can become powerful tools of peace building. Whether in regional forums or in international assemblies, Malaysia stood firm on one conviction that our diplomacy must always be anchored in values, not in mere expediencies. My dear brothers and sisters, in Islam, these values or values of shared ethical foundation across faith foundations are beautifully reflected in the Quran. For example, in the principle of justice, it is clearly mentioned about how one needs to command with justice. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl wal ihsan. For example, the principle of shura, is again the principle of consultation, where you need to consult each other in order to understand people around you. Wa amruhum shura bainahum. The principles of rahmah, the principle of compassion toward others, the very purpose of the Prophet Muhammad's message. And Allah affirmed his one of the important responsibility when Allah sent him to bring, not to bring chaos, to bring rahmah. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And it also talking about amana. And you know amana, how once is required to render trust. Allah says, Inna Allah ya'murukum an tu'addul amana ila ahliha. These are all the Quranic, or what you can call the Quranic vocations, to call everyone together. These are very principles as what our Professor Osman has been telling us about the need to build a civilizational dialogue based on common understanding, on common values. And here, right here, in this university in particular, we can do that to tell the world about the values that we need to cherish. And it resonates well, not only within this wall, but also outside these universities later on. These shared values mirrors ASEAN's own principles of consensus, dialogue, peace, and respect. They also echo similar ethical imperative in Buddhism's karuna, or compassion, Christianity, agape, or love, and Confucianism's benevolence. As Dato Sri Anwar, our Prime Minister, has frequently reminded us, these shared moral traditions across faiths are the foundation for what he calls a new moral economy. I'm a student of economy. If you are not guided with these certain values, very principles, that's why you are saying what he always called the term, the unbridled, or it depends how you pronounce it, unbridled capitalism. They will sweep everything for the sake of making profits alone. One that prioritizes justice. Where he's been talking about the new moral economy, that one that prioritize justice, compassion, and shared prosperity over greed and indifference. It is in this ethical space that cross-cultural religious literacy becomes not only a social necessity, but a moral imperative. I know it's a bit high, my speech, but it's good for you to listen some of the argument after this from our respected scholars here. During my time as foreign minister and foreign service, I found these truths repeatedly reaffirmed, that our region's greatest strength lies not in uniformity, but in its ability to balance diversity with dignity, principle with pragmatism, and faith with reason. The very balance that the Prime Minister has described as essential to the souls of Madani. My dear brothers and sisters, to move forward, ASEAN must transcend mere tolerance, which is passive coexistence, towards meaningful engagement and mutual enrichment. Cross-cultural religious literacy is not simply about knowing the others. It is about seeing through the eyes of the other. Ya. Bukan hanya kita melihat orang. Ya. Bukan hanya kita melihat orang yang ada di hadapan kita. Tetapi kita juga perlu ada kemampuan untuk melihat ke dalam diri kita. Memahami tradisi kita itu sendiri. Sorry, just express a little bit. So for that, all our respected students who seldom speak in Bahasa, so they can also follow a little bit some of the terms here. It is about seeing through the eyes of the other, recognizing their humanity, and allowing that understanding to transform our policy and institutions. Yeah. I remember when the Prime Minister always mentioned to us about the problem we are facing, that besetting the world today. One of the reasons because of we unnecessarily create fear. Fear of the unknown, they call it. Sometimes you don't know who is your enemy is, or enemies are. Well, we keep on creating they are. Oh, they are there, they are here, they are there. But where are they actually? Sometimes you keep on asking yourself. You keep on asking because the culture of fear, which are already infiltrated in your mind, that cause some anxieties among ourselves. Disebabkan oleh ketakutan-ketakutan yang kita tidak tahu ketakutan apa sebenarnya. The fear of the unknown, as I call it. Takut macam kita dululah. Ya. Bila waktu adik-adik sekarang mungkin tak rasa suasana itu ya. Macam kami zaman Prof Osman, pergi. Malam-malam kan nak keluar tarik. Pergi. Ada hantu dah. Takut, tapi tak ada hantu pun, tapi kerana diwujudkan suasana kata perasaan takut, ketakutan kepada hantu itu menyebabkan kita tak berani keluar rumah untuk pergi jumpa kawan ke atau pergi mana. Betul Profesor yang ada depan dan yang imam kita ada sini. The Prime Minister has long argued that dialogue among civilization is not a luxury. It is a necessity for our collective survival. His call resonates even more today as our societies face the twin crises of polarization and misinformation. We must restore the moral foundation of discourse and rebuild trust through education and shared moral reasoning. My experience in diplomacy taught me that true understanding does not emerge from documents or declarations. Yeah. In the world of diplomacy, normally you have the term, for example, track one diplomacy. You know what is track one diplomacy? Track one diplomacy is G to G. You sign the seal and they show to the people, we have our MOU between the two countries. But the most important thing actually is more a shared human encounters. Yeah. From sitting across the table, listening, sharing, yeah, and also discussing something of human interest. That really makes diplomacy work. This is what they call, some people call track 2, track 1.5. For the students, if you are interested in the study of international relations, you go and study this. This is very important from people to people, P to P, or B to B, or business to business diplomacy. That really makes you, really help the countries better in terms of their relationship. So, to me, those moments reinforce my belief that bridging our hearts, yeah, is the highest form of diplomacy. Yeah, though I only, serve only for 1 year, but the effect I can feel until today. Because the Prime Minister reminded me, Zambry, this is your responsibility. You go out, I know you can interact with people around the world based on your connection and our connection before. Because based on the people to people and heart to heart, that makes our countries being very, very much respected by many, many countries in the world. So, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, today marks not an end, but a beginning, also a starting point for sustained dialogues, shared learning, and collaborative policy building across ASEAN. Let us, therefore, commit ourselves to advancing cross-cultural religious literacy as a cornerstone of our shared ASEAN identity grounded in justice, or adil, compassion, or rahmah, and peace, or salam. So on behalf of the Ministry of Higher Education, Malaysia, I extend my deepest gratitude to IIUM, Mr. Osman, and the members of the academic, and to Leimena Institute, Pak Matius, makasih ya. Makasih kerana menanggung ongkosnya ya. And Stratsi for their steadfast collaborations. May this forum strengthen the morals and intellectual foundation of our ASEAN community. And with that, as much as I want to speak more, because it's a subject of my interest actually, but because due to time constraint, I got to rush to another function. I'm pleased to officially launch the ASEAN Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy Forum. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri, for the insightful and inspiring address. Ladies and gentlemen, we now invite Datuk Rector to present the token of appreciation to Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri. Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri and Datuk Rector. Ladies and gentlemen, we now announce the departure of Yang Berhormat Dato Sri DiRaja Dr. Zambry Abdul Kadir, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia. Thank you Yang Berhormat Dato Sri for your gracious presence this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the first forum session titled Strengthening an Inclusive and Cohesive ASEAN Community Through Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy. This session will be moderated by the Honourable Dato Rector and joined by the following distinguished speakers: Dr. Farid Fakhruddin, Director of Center for Islam and Global Challenge, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, and Coordinating Special Advisor to the Minister of Religious Affairs, Republic of Indonesia; Dr. Aldrin M. Penamora, Executive Director, PCEC, Justice, Peace and Reconciliation Commission, and Executive Director, PCEC Theological Commission, and Executive Director, Center for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations. And we have Ms. Syed Nazhat Fahima, founder Hash.Peace and team leader for Sowing Care Together Singapore, and finally Assistant Professor Dr. Athid Thongin from the School of Political Science, Sukhothai Thamatirat Open University. Without further ado, please welcome Dato Rector and all our distinguished panelists to the stage to begin the discussion.
Thank you. You can see your name. Okay, let's proceed. I'm pleased to be the moderator for this first forum. When we're over with the first forum, there'll be a second forum that will be moderated by Professor Imtiaz Yusuf. So for the forum I'm moderating now, the topic is strengthening an inclusive and cohesive ASEAN community through cross-cultural religious literacy. As already announced by our sister moderator, there are 4 panelists. The first panelist to speak, Dr. Farid Zainon. He is the Director of Center for Islam and Global Challenge, Universitas Islam Internasional Indonesia, and coordinating special advisor to the Minister of Religious Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. So let me introduce something more about him as the first panelist. He obtained his PhD from the Australian National University and master's degrees, two masters, not one, two master's degrees from the University of Manchester and Leiden University, Holland. He has previously served at Venus International University, Victoria University of Wellington, University of Waikato, and the University of New South Wales in Canberra. His research focuses on Islamic studies, anthropology of Muslim societies, de-radicalization, and text criticism. He has written widely in these areas, including Re-Legitimizing Religious Authority, Indonesian Gender Just Ulama amid COVID-19 in 2022. Islam in History and the Future, published in 2019, and Vernacularizing the Holy Scripture, the translation of the Quran in Bugis, Makassar, Riam, published in 2018. His work reflects a strong commitment to moderation, inclusivity, and dialogue in contemporary Islamic thought. The second panelist, Dr. Adrian and Peñamora. He's the program director of the PhD in Peace Studies at the Asia Graduate School of Theology, International Graduate School of Leadership, and teaches theology and ethics at AGST, IGSL, and the Asian Theological Seminary. In 2024, he was appointed Executive Director of the Theological Commission of the Asia Evangelical Alliance. His teaching and research focuses on systematic theology, public and political theology, and peace studies. He has authored and co-edited numerous works, with forthcoming volumes titled Paksamba at Politica, Workshop and Politics, Filipino Evangelical Insights in Political Theology, and Following the Prince of Peace, Christian-Muslim Relations in Southeast Asia. Dr. Peñamora earned his PhD in theology, specializing in Christian ethics from Fuller Theological Seminary in the United States. The third panelist, Sister Ms. Nashat Fahima. She is the founder of Peace and Byte platforms dedicated to fostering understanding among people of different faiths and cultures. She began Peace in 2015 as a solo youth movement, starting one conversation at a time. One conversation at a time. To build bridges, dispel stereotypes, and promote peace. Under her leadership, it became a registered youth-led society in 2021, espoused in Singapore. She holds a master's in Asian Studies from the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies, RSIS, and has received the President Volunteerism and Philanthropy Award, People of Good, in 2021. Professionally, she is the Chief Operating Officer of one of Asia's fastest growing commercial law firm, mashallah. And last but not least, the fourth panelist, Dr. Arthit Tongking. He serves as a permanent expert to the National Human Rights cohesion of Thailand, and a permanent advisor to the Committee on the Armed Forces in the Thai House of Representatives. His academic and professional work focuses on governance, security, and human rights in Thailand. Previously, Dr. Arthit served as a policy analyst with the Office of the National Security Council, where he specialized in issues concerning Thailand's southern border provinces. He continues to contribute to national policy discussion through his research and advisory roles, particularly in promoting peace, justice, and human rights within Thailand's diverse society. So those are 4 panelists. Before I invite them to address, just give me 1 minute to say a few words about the whole program today. Cross-ASEAN, cross-cultural religious literacy. The title suggests that we are not so literate now, right now, when it comes to knowledge of the religious other. We all accept that in the world, in every country, there are many different religions, many different ethnicities, many different cultures, languages, and so on. In other words, we live a diverse society. Diversity is part of our reality. We have governments have billions, have spent billions and billions of dollars or ringgits, whatever the currency is, in order to make our society literate. Literate in the academic sense, able to read, able to write, and so on. It's all related to the book culture. But when it comes to our knowledge of the other, who is different from us in terms of religion and faith, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of religiosity, in terms of cultures and so on, we are in an entirely different realm. I said, it is correct to say in this area, we are very much illiterate. We don't know the other. And not knowing the other in the modern context has consequences for us and for others. The consequences can be bad. So the question now, who is the other? I think basically this is what it's all about. How can we promote our knowledge of the religious other in particular, so that from illiteracy or sub-literacy, we will become really literate as far as ASEAN is concerned. Let us make ASEAN the most religiously, culturally literate in the whole world, inshallah. So now I invite Dr. Farid to start the talk.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just confirm that we only have 10 minutes to talk. Right, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera kita semua. Alhamdulillah, hamdan wa syukranillah, salatu wassalaman daimaini mutalazimaini ala rasulillah, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'du. Thank you very much, Dato Usman, for having me here. I remember that in our undergraduate study in Jakarta, we read your works very much, and then I'm happy today that I could meet you in person today. Thank you very much. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I've just been inspired by the remarks delivered by His Excellency, the Minister of Higher Education of Malaysia. And then it led me to change slightly from delivering what I've just prepared in my slide to something that I find more important to deliver in this great opportunity. Right. Well, seems that my slide won't be very useful today. It's a 16 slide to be delivered in 10 minutes would be a big problem to me. Anyway, as we agreed that we are created with diversity. That's absolutely true. And then our problem now is how to appreciate and celebrate this diversity rather than to sorry about. So through the CCRL program we organized so far in Jakarta, we are trying to give a kind of awareness to participants. With the diversity we have, then we need to understand each other. That's to defeat our prejudice over other. And through this training, we expect participants to have at least 3 capacities. The first one is self-competence. If we have the audience from Muslim community, for example, then we give a kind of a deep understanding of Islam. The same case if we have audience dominantly from Christian communities, then we do the same thing, giving deep understanding about Christianity. Yeah. The second one is the comparative competence. And that means to give us an understanding about religious others delivered by the expert or those who live with and in that faith. That means if we want to understand about Christianity, we need to learn it from a Christian. Or the same thing in our case, in our training through the CCRL, we would like to invite participants as well to understand Judaism in one way or another from a rabbi who live with and in that faith. So at least we reduce some sort of prejudice over other religions, especially for Muslims community. And I was responsible to share an understanding of other religions that we could find from our Holy Quran. And in some ways, as we Muslims believe with the many forms of miracles of the Quran, yeah. And one of the miracles is that any other words employed in the Quran, whether they are similar or not, yeah, whether they are mutaradif or mushtarak, they must leave slightly different senses from those vocabularies. And by this, we share an understanding that, for example, the Quran employ several, not to say many, several vocabularies or technical terms to address religious communities, at least at that time. Yeah. Well, at least for Christianity, for example, we have Nasara, or Qalu Inna Nasara, or Ahlul Kitab, or Banu Israel, that also consists of or covers the idea of religious communities, including Christianity and Judaism. And especially when we discuss Jewish society, for example, well, we acknowledge that we have difficulties, we have obstacles in here. But then, by introducing the way the Quran employ many technical terms addressed to Jewish societies, then we might have slightly understanding about a Jewish society. Well, regardless with the whole problem caused by the Israeli today, with the whole humanitarian crisis we already find every day, but at least the Quran already gives us a kind of differences when it delivered or it employs these technical terms. So for example, Banu Israel, yes, we understand they include Jewish society as well. And especially when we introduce with the word al-Yahud, for example, then our mind will go with the whole negative circumstances of Jewish communities. And the most famous verse that we always take to deal with this issue is "Walan tarda ankal Yahud wala an-Nasara," for example. But bear in mind that the Quran also employs some other words related to Jewish communities. Yeah. And especially in some places in the Quran, Allah employs, for example, the word alladhina hadu, for example, which might leave a little bit, not to say positive, but a little bit different senses of the technical term of al-Yahud. Yeah. So basically the Quran gives a kind of differentiation between this technical term, and of course it addresses or point out to particular Jewish societies as well. Well, we could then make an example. For example, well, there are many good Muslim societies, of course, but we cannot avoid that there are also who are not good. 2 minutes. Yeah. So, well, similarly or equally the same that other societies might have the same case. Yeah. So with the word al-Yahud, for example, it's all negative. There is no doubt about it. But when Allah or the Quran says about alladhina hadu, then those people who very committed with religious teaching, with Judaism. And if we go back to the history of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, when he was forced to leave Mecca to Medina, and if he didn't want to be caught by the Meccan Quraysh at that time, then he needed to use some specific strategies. And the strategy was to take different ways to go from Mecca to Medina. The problem was that there is no one from the Prophet's side, the companions or the Sahaba, no one knows about the southern track to go to Medina from Mecca. And the only one the Prophet could contact and ask help to be the guide, yeah, to take him from Mecca to Medina is a Jew. Some other reports, riwayah said a Christian. Anyway, but he already asked help from non-Muslims for something very big, like himself or Islam in general. And as we know, the Prophet reached Medina safely with the help of this guide. So what we can share in here is that with the whole understanding of other societies that we learn from those who live with that faith, then we might have we might reduce our prejudice over other societies. And this is the right events, the right moments, yeah, to have this kind of awareness. Well, what I just shared about this understanding is just a slight or a very small understanding from the Quran. Well, we will have more time, of course, to learn about it. But at least a better understanding toward other societies would help us to live together in an open and egalitarian societies. Therefore, with this opportunity, I would like to invite and ask all of us here to invest time to learn about other societies. I do not claim by this that I already understand the whole things about religious others, not. But at least if we invest time to learn about other societies, then what we have as an objective from the cross-cultural religious literacy will be very helpful to create a very cohesive societies, especially in our moments today with the Asian communities, to create more open and better cohesive societies. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farid, for exactly 10 minutes speaking. Sorry, I mean, we don't have much time to leave, except for that. Okay, I invite now Dr. Aldrin. Dr. Aldrin, please.
Greetings of peace to each and everyone. And I would like to thank you again, our Minister of Education who graced our forum earlier. And also to Dr. Usman, thank you for the invitation. And also to Dr. Matthews Ho for Leimena Institute for this wonderful invitation.
Dr. Farid has to rush back to Jakarta.
And thank you, Dr. Farid. Well, my topic for this afternoon and this very prestigious occasion, I entitled it An Evangelical Christian Journey in Christian-Muslim Just Peacemaking in the Philippines. As you know, or many of you know, the Philippines, the Muslim-Christian relations has been, we've had difficult centuries in terms of relationships. A.J. Muste and Gandhi once said, "There is no way to peace, peace is the way." And in Matthew 5:9 from the Bible, it is said there that blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. In these two sayings, we can see that A.J. Muste and Gandhi talked about the method, that there is no way to peace, and even that peace is the destination. So both method and destination are important. In Matthew 5, blessed are the peacemakers, we see that it is the people who are said to be important. Blessed are the peacemakers. And indeed, these are all true. And I think what we are trying to accomplish here with what Dr. Usman said, I was inspired also upon him saying that this forum is actually about the other, understanding the other. And I think that encapsulates what we are trying truly to understand in forums like this. In the Philippines, let me just give you a very brief statistics of how many Muslims are there. And as you can see in the slide, there are about 6%, maybe I think even higher, maybe 10% according to one statistics. Most of the Muslims in the Philippines live in the southern Philippines. And Christianity, which is a majority, has around 88%. And like in many nations, there is a problem in terms of identity when there is a majority-minority relations, navigating one's identity, one's political aspirations. This can have difficulties in these kinds of arrangements. In the Philippines, there is an insurgency that has been going on from 1968 up to 2019. I think it's one of the longest in the recent period. And there is for both Muslims and Christians, there is a aspiration for peace. And as you can see in this slide, the cost of war is enormous. 120,000 were killed from 1970 to just 1996. Most of them, because it's an insurgency, 50% came from the Muslim insurgents, 30% from the armed forces, and 20% from the civilians. And I wouldn't read other statistics here, but you can see how war is very much costly. So that even right now, even when you talk to a Christian, to a Muslim, or to anyone in the Philippines, they would say that they would desire peace. One of the themes of our cross-cultural religious literacy is understanding oneself, which is also called personal competence. And I would like to apply these themes, these components, to my experience and the experience of Christians in peace building in the Philippines. And I wrote here that understanding oneself requires knowing deeply the teachings of one's faith tradition, especially about loving others, and treating them as kapwa. This is a Filipino term. If Dr. Usman said understanding the other is very important, the term kapwa in Filipino means self-other. So that there's really no difference between the self and other, and we can even say that the self can even only exist with the other, that there's no person who is an island. We exist in community. Understanding oneself also requires knowing the past, and this is in terms of our conflict in the Philippines, that if we are to understand ourselves as Christians, majority Christians, it requires us to know the past and the roots of the conflict. You see this slide here says the Battle of Budaho. This is one of the enormous battles during the American period. But if you ask a Filipino, a Christian Filipino, do you know about this battle when almost 1,000 Muslims were massacred by American forces? Most of them, I assure you, most Filipino Christians would not know about it, anything about it. And this is what I'm saying when we do our seminars, our teachings to both Christians and Muslims, we emphasize things like this, that we should remember the past. We should not forget the past, because it is the past that will enable us to navigate a better future. Understanding oneself also requires acknowledging the failings of one's own faith tradition. You see, in the Philippines, when you talk about terrorism, they would immediately say, in a Christian-dominated country, it is not improbable that you will hear, well, terrorists, you will find it in the Middle East, you will find it in southern Philippines, and they would say that terrorists, they would say it's always the Muslims who would do it. And in our training, we would also highlight that terrorism does not only happen in one religion, it happens in all religions, even in the Christian religion. So that I have this slide here. It is one of my topics when I do my trainings. It's entitled Christian Terrorism. And we would talk about the failings of Christianity all over the centuries, the Crusades, during World War II when the Nazis, most of them were Christians, and many others. Slavery was a product of Christianity. But what I'm trying to say is that if we are to truly understand ourselves, we should acknowledge our own failings, the failings of our own traditions. And in one seminar that they did, one Christian woman was crying when she learned that her tradition was the cause of so many injustices in history. She didn't know that because there is a tendency for us, in our case for Christianity, to teach only the good things and not to let the bad things appear. And so also about the sacred and secular divide, this is another topic that I often teach, so that Christians would see how we have failed in many ways in participating in matters of justice for the other. And so, what would happen if you acknowledge your failing? In one forum, we have asked forgiveness from our Muslim brothers and sisters. This is a forum that happened, and we prayed for one Muslim leader in the Philippines, Professor Munir Bajunaid, and we specifically asked for his forgiveness for all the failings in history and that we have done as Christians. And when I was in the car with him, he was telling me, Aldrin, this is the first time that someone, a Christian, told me something like that. I need to, because I only have a couple of minutes left. These initiatives that we have done, simply about knowing the other, ourselves and the other, acknowledging our faults, it has led us to a Muslim-Christian MOHE. This is a memorandum of agreement with the MILF, the top leadership of Muslims in the Philippines, the MOHE Islamic Liberation Front, and I am there signing the agreement as I have led this interfaith group. And another competence, of course, requires spending time with another, and of course, dialogues is it is one way that we are able to do that. But finally, I would like to emphasize on comparative competence, which means walking together. When we talk about comparative competence in the context of cross-cultural religious literacy, it means, for me, it means spending time together in creating a vision of the common good. We should spend time together, talk about what is good for both traditions, not only for one tradition, but for both, because that is what common good means. And oftentimes, it also means defending and advocating the good of the self-other. You notice that I'm not using other as a term. I am emphasizing self-other, so that when I look at you and you look at me, I hope that we are looking at one another in terms of our humanity. Here you see a picture. This is in Southern Philippines when they are promoting and they're campaigning for an autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. And I am one of the few pastors who promoted this. And I was part of the caravan advocating for the passage of the law that would create the autonomous region. Sometimes it means defending their rights. This is again our group advocating for the passage of displaced persons due to war in Southern Philippines. Safe passage for Muslims because they have been displaced because of the war with the government. And in one occasion, this is a turnover of permanent shelters that our group, our evangelical Christian group, built for Muslims displaced due to the war. Up to now, a total of 120 houses were built and given to the Muslim community. This is not for Christians. These are Christians giving aid because we know that we are brothers and sisters, and at this time they needed shelter, so we were able to build. And these are not simply shelters that can be destroyed easily, but these are really good shelters. So with that, I would like to say that again, thank you for this opportunity, and may we cultivate the ethic of seeing each other as a self-other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adrin. Now we go to Sister Nazaf Fahima. Can do that?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. MashaAllah, all the speeches are so good, I don't know what to add to the wisdom. Honourable Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Osman Bakar, Rector of International Islamic University Malaysia, Brother Matthias Ho, Executive Director of Leimena Institute, Jakarta, my fellow speakers, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters from ASEAN, and friends from around the world. It is an honor to join you today at this important gathering where we reflect on the meaning of cross-cultural literacy for ASEAN 2045. I bring greetings from Singapore. A city-state for over 2 centuries has stood at the intersection of faith, culture, and civilization. Like all nations in Southeast Asia, multiculturalism is not merely part of our national story. It is woven in our DNA. It defines how we live together and how we imagine our shared future. Article 9.7 of the ASEAN 2045, Our Shared Future strategic plan, is more than a declaration. For many of us in Southeast Asia, it's a reflection of how we live. As a region, we've always done it. Brothers and sisters, while all that gives me hope, I speak today with much strained hope and a very deep worry. Hope because we have before us a generation that is more connected, compassionate, and globally minded than ever before. Worry because we also live in deep polarization, misinformation, and moral fatigue. Wars, human suffering, and tensions between identities have once again shaped our moral imagination. The multilateral order that once safeguarded small states is under strain. And every day, we witness how narratives online, amplified by algorithms, now by artificial intelligence, can deepen fear, hostility, rather than understanding. The challenge before us is not only to defend our faiths, but to humanize them in a public sphere, so that faith remains the source of wisdom, empathy, and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up with my identity as a young Muslim in a post-9/11 world. I was 15 when that happened. A world that is so misinformed, sometimes fearful of what Islam represented. Many of us here would understand what it means to live in the in-between space, where our identities were questioned, yet our regional spirit reminds us to respond with wisdom, patience, and grace. If there is any region that understands how culture, faith, and identity converge, it truly is Southeast Asia. As a Singaporean Tamil Muslim woman, I traveled and spoke about how we live in tolerance, coexistence, and harmony. Not as a slogan, but as a daily practice, because for many of us, it was the way of life. Because harmony is not a rule, it's a will. With that conviction, 10 years ago, I started Peace. It was a youth movement when I was a youth. It was to counter extremist ideology, exclusivist mindset, and to promote interfaith understanding. It all began with just one simple mission, which is to help people understand each other's identities, one conversation at a time. And if I must be the only Muslim woman in the room, then I chose to be. I wanted to learn, unlearn, relearn, and understand people who were different from me, but that also means understanding people who were different from me as well. What began as a solo initiative has now grown into a youth advocacy network. We stand against prejudice, ignorance, negative stereotyping. We advocate for interbelief, intercultural, and intergenerational dialogue. Our message to the world as young people is very simple. Don't be hasty to react, just be responsible. We have a task force on youth radicalism, we have dialogues on women for social harmony, and my most favorite activity is #Jalan-Jalan. Because all it takes is just jalan-jalan, go visit people and get to know them. And this is only the spirit of every Southeast Asian. Peace has now grown. We are now a country partner for Champions of Peace program that aims to build young people's resilience as champions of peace in Southeast Asia. Beyond that, many initiatives that I've had given me the opportunity to know more people. One of the key initiatives is the Together in Singapore. where we bring migrant workers, thank you, migrant workers and Singaporeans together so that they may know each other. These conversations have only been deeply moving. Brothers and sisters from India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Myanmar, we sit down and we understand each other. It's a very interesting program because what we do is we make everybody go through 5 circles. Each circle starts from birth, marriage, death, afterlife. We pick themes and we get people to just know what we believe about each other. At the end of the program, a lot of bridges are built, a lot of walls are broken, and the idea that they are migrant and we are local doesn't exist anymore. I would like to close with a few examples of some of these initiatives from Singapore, which I think is in my slides, if they are. Yeah, so we can just go through some of these slides. This is a model that we use in HashPeace. If any of you are familiar with Star Wars, if you're old enough to know the Star Wars, R2-D2 is that little robot that always saves the day. So I think for young people who want to do interfaith, we want to promote the idea that do your research first. Know the different people that live around you. Read, research, reflect. Have a dialogue before you start to develop programs. Next. These are some of the programs that we do with schools. We promote R2-D2. We encourage young people to, most importantly, counter negative stereotyping. Many of the problems tend to start from this negative stereotypes that are formed. Next. This is the Together in Singapore program, where if you can see that, there are locals and migrant brothers and sisters from different, where they dress up and we try to understand each other's culture and from clothing to practice. Next. This is one of the things that we found very useful in Singapore is socially engaged dialogue, because not everybody wants to sit down and talk about it. Some of them want to be engaged in it. So we started doing charity work that brings people of different faith together to understand each other. And we were very lucky that Ramakrishna Mission, a Hindu missionary organization, hosted iftar and charity in one of these years. MashaAllah. Next. And of course, I'm very grateful to the speaker from Indonesia for really promoting. I think it's about also creating safe. In Singapore, we have a Jewish community that's been there for 200 years. And one of the things that I regularly do is to take people on a tour around the museum to talk about the locals, the local Jewish community. And we create safe spaces so people can talk about what is going on. Next. And one of the very beautiful things I like, especially about Singapore, is every religious leader will host interfaith celebrations. So the cardinal, the archbishop from the Catholic Church, he will host Interfaith Christmas. The Hindu Endowments Board will host Interfaith Deepavali. Mufti of Singapore always every year hosts the Interfaith Hari Raya gathering. At every festive celebration, there's always at least 1 or 2 tables that are dedicated for people of other religions. And that is really the promise of inclusivity that Singapore has carried in the past many, many years. Next. Yeah, and with that, brothers and sisters, our region doesn't need louder voices. It needs gentler hearts. In an age of noise and division, to listen is the new courage. To understand is the new leadership. Cross-cultural literacy, religious literacy, is not an academic exercise. It is a moral practice that begins with each of us. Let us be the generation that dares to stand between polarities, defend faith without hatred, and turn understanding into solidarity. I thank International Islamic University and as well as Leimena Institute for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Fahima. Okay, next I invite Dr. Arthit Thonging.
Okay, good afternoon, esteemed participants, respected panelists, and thank you, Dato Osman, Professor Osman for invitation and be our distinguished moderator today. It is my great honor to join the meaningful conversation in this forum. And I have no PowerPoint. I just know this morning that everyone has PowerPoint. And I didn't prepare for it. Sorry again about this. But you know, I asking from my background as an international relations student that what kind of our regional organization look like in comparative to another regional operation like GCG, the Gulf cooperation or another things. What kind of this? What is ASEAN for us? For me, ASEAN is not just a regional organization based on economic or political cooperation. At its core, in my perspective, it is like a community construction project designed to create a people-oriented and people-centered region with peace, mutual trust, mutual understanding become foundation of our peaceful coexistence in our region of diversity. So it is what the first thing I want to situate our discussion today under the framework of ASEAN commitment and some kind of strategic documents. First of all is the minister and some panelists said, we want to start with the ASEAN Vision 2045. This document envisions our region that is resilient, creative, dynamic, and people-centered region. And a strategic goal that is under the APSC or ASEAN Political Security Community. This vision is operationalized through the APSC Blueprint 2025 and its successor strategic plan toward 2045, which outline the ASEAN determination to strengthen democratic institutions, the rule of law, promoting the culture of peace and mutual understanding, and building a resilient, inclusive, and harmonious regional identity. Within this framework, under the Section 8.3 of APSC Blueprint, ASEAN commit to build a culture of peace and moderation, which has one strategic measures explicitly include conducting series of cross-cultural literacy program to amplify the voice of moderation. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a remarkable statement, and it is not accidental. Sorry. It reflects ASEAN recognition that peace and security in Southeast Asia cannot be achieved and cannot be sustained merely through what called traditional security cooperation or just a power relationship, such as political dialogue between just our leaders or military confidence building. But instead, peace and security in our region could be achieved just only in place of mutual trust, religious tolerance, and respect for diversity. Do you know why is this? The reason why is this is because our region is a home of every major world religion. We have Islam, we have Christianity, like Dr. Adrian said previously. We have Buddhism. We have, Hinduism. Batu Cave is near university. We have even indigenous tradition like Orang Asli. All of these often existing side by side in same political society. This is why the cross-cultural religious literacy, or CCRL, is so crucial to achieving ASEAN political and social objective. And then what is CCRL means? At this point, I think that CCRL, or cross-cultural religious literacy, refer basically to the knowledge, skill, and attitudes enable both individuals and communities to understand, to engage with, and to appreciate the cultural and religious diversity which defines our continents. And it is not just about tolerance, it is about learning to each other. It is about developing literacy to comprehend how religion and culture shape people's values, decision, behavior, and relationship, and how misunderstanding about this could lead to prejudice and conflict, and sometimes violence and war. Therefore, CCRL is like a tool for reducing the misperception, to strengthening the social cohesion across religious boundaries, and to building the community and society that have resilience to extremists and extreme version of interpretation of religious and cultural teaching. Thus, to develop the CCRL is equal to equip our citizens, our students, and leaders, officials with emotional intelligence and ethical awareness. These are the crucial factors needed to transform diversity. To emphasize, is needed to transform diversity from a source of division, a source of conflict, and in some cases, a source of violence, transform it into a resource for peace. I want to connect it with another kind of concept. This CCRL is very like a symbiotic relationship with the culture of peace, which is one goal of ASEAN too. Let me explain simply. On the one hand, CCRL, or cross-cultural religious literacy, is like the means in which people cognitive and emotional capacity must be developed. And on the other hand, the culture of peace is like a goal. As the peaceful societal and cultural environment that will emerge in the time when such a literacy become our shared values. And culture of peace, if we trace back to the words, we must start with the UNESCO Declaration on Culture of Peace, adopted by United Nations General Assembly in 1999. The UNESCO defined a culture of peace is a set of values, attitude, and behavior that reflect the respect for life, rejection of violence, and endeavoring to prevent conflict through addressing their root cause by dialogue, by negotiation, by understanding. And thus, the culture of peace in this sense, peace in this word, is not just about absence of conflict or absence of violence, but it is also the presence of justice, understanding, and respect. In theoretically, we call for culture of peace in the ASEAN context, we must take both negative and positive peace together. And in our ASEAN vision, we can see that based on the relationship between the CCRL and culture of peace, the CCRL enables us to think, speak, and act in accordance with the culture of peace. And ASEAN has adapted this principle as well. Even in ASEAN, its own culture of peace agenda also echo this spirit. We can see that when ASEAN promote cross-cultural religious literacy, ASEAN doesn't mean that we have to promote religion per se, or we must learn about each other religious teaching or theology. But it means that we should learn to understand how different religion explain the social environment and give the meaning in different cultural setting. Okay. Therefore, to strengthen the ASEAN that has inclusiveness and cohesion and build up on the unity, and we ask about the question how we achieve security for our region. I think that it is not on the table because we cannot rest on the balance of power, or it's not about the agreement between our leader purely, but it's built up on our understanding and our heart and mind of our people in ASEAN. Okay, I think I have no time's up right now. Okay, thank you, and hope to have second round if we have the time. Thank you.
Hello. Yes, we have still a little time left before the next forum. So any question, please, the question, say in a few words, don't give another lecture. Anybody?
Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps we have any questions from the floor? Brothers, sisters? Yes, please. Can we have a mic for the sister over here?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. My question is directed to Mr. Aldrin. So it is very interesting that you mentioned about knowing oneself in the engagement of CCRL. I'm coming from the background of dialogue, and this is very important as well. So practically, how do you hold that kind of effort in order to encourage your own religious believers to first master themselves before engaging with others, or do it simultaneously? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Well, to cultivate that kind of an ethic, that you're able to see the self as the other as a self, and as I mentioned, knowing specifically in our context when there's conflict and so much prejudice, we needed to break it down and see that what are the elements that contribute to that prejudice. And one of the elements that we saw is that for Christians, being a majority, they're blinded by their own history. They're blinded by their own teachings. They look at themselves as, well, we're the good ones. And so we try to open their eyes and say, that's not the way to truly, look at yourself, but look at even your history as a concrete arena of your mistakes. And you cannot see the other as to demonize, to vilify the other person and say, they are the ones who are causing all this trouble. And in Philippine history, as you know, colonization, Christian attitude, prejudice, this all contributed to this prejudice and hostility between two peoples, and even division among Filipinos. And so by cultivating that kind of a self-reflective perspective, we're able to see that the other is actually like you. It's a self-other. I hope shed some light.
Okay, any question?
Due to time constraint,
Yes.
we'll have one, inshallah, more.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, when we're talking about cross-cultural religious literacy, we're talking...
Is your question directed to anyone?
Okay, how to deal with extremist elements? Because when you talk about this, you talk about people willing to at least try to understand. But there are people out there, there are extremists, who actually vilify religions, especially the ones, there are people who actually create Islamophobia and they are in control of the media. These are very extreme elements and they are not really reasonable people. How do you deal with that?
Okay, the question is addressed to all of you.
I think there needs to be a level of reality in who's ready for dialogue. Dialogue doesn't happen with any 2 or 3 individuals. It needs to happen with people whose mental capability to receive is at the same level. And so you need to assess the people around you, whether they are ready for dialogue. And we have to accept that some of them are not. In fact, they're not just about ready for dialogue, but they're also more keen in trying to shut down dialogues as well. That's one. Second is patience. If your purpose, your niyat is to make sure that these people need to have a better understanding of the religion, you have to be there, sometimes take many bullets before they can see it. I think that's also the inner jihad, right? Like I said, I have found myself in many times being the only Muslim woman, and there are many times I have to sit through and really listen to very poor, weak understanding. And I think I can only offer them empathy because they didn't have the journey I had with my faith. No matter how much we can explain, the person's ability to understand another religion can only come so much because they are not of that identity. So we need to offer the most empathy. And I think people, many of the seniors here would know, the more you keep talking to them patiently, over time, they will realize. And never underestimate the way your mind can prime. I have seen, and I deal with a lot of the Jewish Christian members, sometimes when you're telling them certain things to clarify about a religion, they won't understand it then. But many months later, they might have seen something, heard something, and suddenly whatever we said will come to their mind. And these people many times end up being also those who protect you. So I would say conviction and lots of patience. And I think trying to just be there itself is an ibadah to begin with.
Can I add? Thank you. And I'd like to add that since this is the age of social media, people, what you call this false news or fake news are everywhere. So that it's important that, as it was mentioned earlier, that there's compassion, there is this love for one another, but this needs to be visible. One of my partners in peace building, my Muslim friend, he would say to me that they need to see us together. They need to see us walking together, because even though we're not able to reach everyone, but when they see us, religious leaders, Christians and Muslims, walking together, just having dinner together, it makes a great statement, a powerful statement of being with one another and of community.
So thank you for the question. I think this is a very important question for our forum. For your question, I think we should clarify it into the macro level of macro picture about the political economy of this Islamophobia like that. We talk about the fake news, we talk about the media. It is like a pull factors. It's like a supply side of this problem. And in demand side, what kind of factor that is push factor to make people question and fear about the Muslim or Islam? It is not single model. It is not universal model or answer about this. we should contextualize like that. For example, in my country, we should clarify that what is the factor that people afraid of and fear of Islam, like the violence in the Patani, or maybe sometimes they feel like you or Muslim undermine some sacred values of them. We have to know that what is their sacred values. So it is based on different contexts.
Okay, thank you. I can have one more question. Okay. Please be short. Please be short, okay?
Can we have the microphone, please?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much. The question is addressed to the sister from Singapore.
Okay.
I would like to know, how do you facilitate the differences among religious communities in order to maintain their identity according to the teachings of their religions in this kind of interreligious sittings that we have organized? Because that is, I can see that is a bit challenging how to improve when you want to make a Muslim to be a better Muslim instead of losing the identity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge that interfaith world itself is always grappling with. I think it all goes down to the facilitator, right? That's why, when I mentioned there's a lot of research. So for example, when I'm facilitating dialogue between Jewish, Muslim, or, well, Abrahamic religions with the plurality, I have to do a lot of research, not just on the three religions, but the people that's going to be in the room. So I need to first understand the whole spectrum of, in especially the Jewish community, there is a whole orthodoxy all the way to liberalism. Within Muslims also, there are cultural differences. Once I understand that, I think I also would assess comfort level. If there are some people who are a little bit more willing to step outside the boundary, right? For example, if there are Muslims who are willing to come into the Hindu temple with me to learn about Hinduism, then I can facilitate that. But I must also be mindful that there will be people who don't want to step into that place of worship, and that's also okay. I think what we should try not to do is create this fixed idea of what interfaith dialogue is. Because the aim is not to deliver a program. The aim is to make sure that the person's comfort level has shifted from point 1 to point 2. Some are better, they shift from point 1 to point 5. But I think it's whether or not it has shifted. So I'm very careful. Sometimes even the place matters. If it has to be a neutral place, we have to. I'll just quickly share one story without saying where this dialogue happened. We planned a dialogue, and I think after 1.5 years, we managed to bring everybody into the room. But there were about 3 members who decided they will not sit down at the dialogue. Not because they had an issue with the other religions, they had an issue with their intra-faith issues. And what we did was we failed to do the research that people sometimes within their own religions may not accept people who are slightly different or more different. And that gave the idea that I think before we talk about training the participants, are the facilitators itself well-knowledged with the nuance of religious? I think with that, we can decide how to do it.
Okay, thank you. For the last 30 seconds for me, as moderator. Again, I want to go back to our theme of this forum, cross-cultural literacy. In order to promote literacy, we must erase, if possible, minimize prejudices. We must erase prejudices. And prejudices breed upon what? They breed upon false differences. Differences, they are created by us, not real differences. So we need to identify what are these false differences, minimize these differences. I think that is important. And we need that through various means, dialogues, personal friendship, and all kinds of things. Increase the interactions, the human interactions between us, between the future citizens of ASEAN. Thank you very much. And please join me in thanking the panelists for their contribution.
Thank you, Dato Rector and our panelists for the engaging discussion. We will now proceed with the presentation of tokens of appreciation to our panelists and moderator. I would like to invite Mr. Matthias Ho to the stage to present the tokens of appreciation. First, I invite Dr. Aldrin Penamora. Next to Honourable Dato Rector. The Honourable Dato Rector. Followed by Ms. Said Nazhat Fahima. Next, I invite Ms. Said Nazhat Fahima. And finally, Dr. Arthid Fongin. Thank you, Mr. Matthias, Dato Rector, and all esteemed panelists. You may now return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to our second forum titled Perspectives and Experiences in Fostering a Culture of Respect for All in Multi-Faith, Multicultural Societies. This session will be moderated by Professor Dr. Imtiaz Yusof from ISTAC IIUM Kuala Lumpur campus. The distinguished panelists for this session are Professor Dr. Kamar Oniah binti Kamaruzzaman, Fellow Professor Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, Kuliah of Islamic Reveal Knowledge and Human Sciences IIUM, Professor Dr. Suresh Kumar P. Govin, Director of Asia Pacific Institute of Satya Sai Human Value Education and Advisor to Satya Sai International Organization, Malaysia, Mr. Matthias Ho, Executive Director, Leimena Institute, Jakarta, and Dr. Peter Chang, Deputy Director, Institute of China Studies, University of Malaysia, Malaya, Malaysia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We are running late on time, but it's unavoidable. First of all, I thank you very much to the Rector, Professor Dato Usman Baka, to honor me with this responsibility to moderate this session. And we have a panel of distinguished scholars who will be presenting their views. I'll introduce them in a few minutes, but I want to make a few remarks at the beginning. First is that the theme of this ASEAN Forum, cross-cultural literacy, which means, I've been reflecting upon it while sitting down here, that it means we are all religiously illiterate. We may be literate, but we are all religiously illiterate. And this can be seen. I've been living in ASEAN for the last 40 years, though you know very well, I'm not from here. I have been seeing in ASEAN countries or Asian countries from India to Japan, the rise of Asian Islamophobia. We are not addressing this question, which is because we are not talking to each other in ASEAN or in Asia. Religions of Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, thanks to the contribution of Professor Osman Baka. In this area, the sole person who is doing Islam and Confucianism. So we are, in a way, there's a lot of illiteracy in this region. And fortunately, the ASEAN Charter has the Charter of Building Socio-Cultural Community, which is an instrument which can be used for building interreligious understanding. Now, coming from the point of view of Muslim or Islamic history, I teach comparative religion, I would say that we are not late in this journey of religious literacy. In fact, Western scholars recognize Ash-Shahrastani as the first comparativist scholar of comparative religion. We have Al-Biruni, we have Hafiz Abru, we have Ismail Al-Faruqi, my teacher, we have Professor Sayyid Hussain Nasr, the teacher of Professor Osman Baka. We have other scholars here who have also been engaging in it. And my colleagues, we studied at Temple University. It may be like we are all dominating here. We have Professor Baharuddin, who was here. We have Professor Kamar Onia, she is here. So we are all have been engaging, and Wahid there at the back. So we have all engaging in this business of interreligious dialogue. So let me start here. We say one more statement that in study of comparative religion, it is said that he who knows one, he or she who knows one knows none, which means just knowing our own religion is not enough. We have to know the other to know ourselves. Many people get frightened to study or engage in religious literacy because we have the fear of the other, which has been discussed before. Even Hans Kung, the famous Catholic liberation theologian, interreligious dialogue theologian, says there will be no peace among nations without peace among religions. So this is where we are. Let me introduce the panel here. We have a very distinguished panel. We have Professor Dr. Kamar Onia Kamarazuzaman, who is my senior at Temple University. I always have to be very careful when I when I speak with her. She is a renowned scholar in comparative religion, currently serving as professorial fellow at the Department of Usuluddin and Comparative Religion at the International Islamic University with over 40 years. She has 40 years of teaching experience. I'm always afraid to talk in front of her. It's my fears. She has 40 years of teaching experience, 34 years of that in IIUM. She has had key leadership roles as a founding director of International Center for Alliance of Civilization, deputy director of International Institute of Muslim Unity. Her influence extends beyond academia. She's a very engaged person in interreligious dialogue. She's an activist. She has authored many books. In fact, her most notable work is early Muslim scholarship in religion Wissenschaft, Understanding Islam, Contemporary Discourse, and the award-winning book, Religion and Pluralistic Coexistence, The Mohibba Perspective. Her commitment to social justice and interfaith dialogue is further reflected in her active involvement in national and international civil society activities. We have also with us Professor Dr. Suresh Kumar Govind. I was searching him. He's here. He's senior professor and former head of the Department of Parasitology. I hope I pronounced it right. He had authored 160 scientific papers, presented 270 conference papers. We in social sciences, we can't beat that record. With experience in supervising 100 over students in doctorate candidates. He is an expert with WHO guidelines for drinking water quality since 2004. He serves on various national councils and committees. Today here, he is representing the Satya Sai International Organization in Malaysia. He promotes human values, selfless service, and having authored 7 books on this subject. Currently, he coordinates community engagement programs in interreligious dialogue. Our third panelist here is none other than Dr. Matthias Ho, who is the Executive Director of the Institut Leimena in Jakarta, which is the collaborator of this event. He leads the development of cross-cultural religious literacy program, which since 2021 has trained thousands of teachers in Indonesia on competencies to strengthen a peaceful, multi-religious, multicultural society. He has been invited to speak at the program in several countries. He wrote about Indonesia in the Routledge Handbook of Religious Literacy, Pluralism, and Global Engagement in 2021. He has worked with Indonesia, Singapore, and many other organizations in the region. He received S1 and S2 degrees from the University of Wisconsin Medicine. Our last but not least is our friend Dr. Peter Chang. I've been known him for several years in Malaysia. He's trained in the field of comparative philosophy and religion. In recent years, Dr. Chang focuses on ancient philosophical and religious traditions in modern China. The project, he looks at how a rejuvenated Confucianism can shape and evolve the character of the Chinese milieu which is impacted by global community. Currently, he is based at the Institute of China Studies at the University of Malaya. He is examining this from the perspective of China's soft power, specifically Chinese traditional, as well as popular cultural imprints upon the world at large in general and in Malaysia in particular. So we'll have 10 minutes for each speaker. We begin with Professor Kamar Onia as the first speaker. Would you speak from there? Or, yeah.
Does this work? Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Salatu salam ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin. I'm going to do the, thank you very much for the organizers, because it's 10 minutes for them to rush through. No protocols. Yeah, Dr. Suraj. I'm going to do only slide reading. So can I have all the slides? Because I prepared, because this is about literacy. It's about interfaith and knowing each other. So I thought it is better to be guided by what I have. I'll just read it. So but you have to excuse me because I'm a bad reader. Oh God, I can't even see that. No, what can we do? Suraj, we change, please. She's just Suraj, and I'm just Kamaunya. And Peter also. These are my great friends. I think so. You help me. This is a Malaysian experience. Malaysia is a pluralistic nation since Malacca Sultanate. Coexistence is the Malaysian ethos. Malaysia coexistence is muhibah. Muhibah is literally love in the context of warmth, respect, acceptance of one and all. Muhibah endorses the kinship of humanity, familyhood of human beings, or human species. Muhibah is accepting the other as they are, and to be respected by others as we are. Muhibah is unity in diversity. Can you follow this? Am I doing all right? Yeah. Next, please. The foundations for Malaysian coexistence. The Rukun Negara, or Pillar of Nation, is the foundation of the Malaysian coexistence. Rukun Negara, what is it? Believe in God, loyalty to king and country, upholding the constitution, rule of law, good behavior and morality. Next, please. Foundations for Malaysian coexistence. This is from my coexistence. Foundation for Muhibah, proposed, is a proposal, it's not in rules yet. Rukun Muhibah, or pillars of Muhibah. Rukun Muhibah, as I propose, how to go about to inculcate Muhibah. principles of non-interference and no intrusion of internal matters of other religions and other communities. We do not interfere with the community's personal affairs. Principles of deference and decorum. Respect differences and sensitivities of the others, not just differences, sensitivities is more important. Principles of sympathy and empathy. Be nice, kind to others, extend sympathy and help when needed. Principles of communal cooperation, to cooperate and work together for common needs and goods. Principles of unity in diversity, appreciate diversity and unite together for to nation and all goodness. Features of religions. What is a religion? Religion has intrapersonal and interpersonal dimensions. Intrapersonal is cultivation of faith. Interpersonal dimension of religion is social aspects of the religion. All religions teach to be good and to do good. At the faith level, religions differ, exclusive and are unique. At the social level, ethics, religions concur, inclusive, and have similar interests. Human beings relate with each other at the social level, and this is the kinship of humanity. Religions share similar social concepts. Example, definitions of good and bad that we could share. Conceptions of religion. What are religions? Religions are perceived in many ways. I think this is important so that we know the other and the other know. Religions are perceived in many different ways. All comprehensive. Some religions are all comprehensive, that everything is religion. Nothing is outside the perimeter of religion. Secular, the division between sacred and the profane. Spiritual, religion only on spiritual matters. When we talk about religion, for some religion it is only on spiritual matters. It doesn't include the others. Some religions say it is only on the other world matters and the life after death. Focus on dying, death, and afterlife. For this religion, religion is only that, nothing to do with worldly life. This is some type of religion. There are religions that are scriptural centered, based on the scriptures. Everything about the religion is based on the scriptures. There are scripture guided. Scriptures inspire the teachings of the religion. Yet there are also non-scriptural. There are religions that are not based on scriptures. And there are religions that are open-ended, meaning the teachings are always ever increasing. I'm going through this because we are talking about literacy. And for 40 years I've been teaching this. Therefore, each religion understands, please take note. Therefore, each religion understands and practices religion in its own ways. As many as there are religions, so also are as many understandings and practices of religion. It's not homogeneous. Constituents of religion. What makes religion religion? Religion constitutes the faith dimension and the social dimension. The faith dimension is the intrapersonal. It is on the faith items and it's about the worldviews and the thought patterns of that religion. The social dimension is the interpersonal, the social items, the value system and behavioral patterns. The Chinese 5 cardinal virtues, Peter? The Chinese 5 cardinal virtues are regarded as virtues by all religions too. Benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and honesty. Similar items of unlawfulness found in hudud and qisas of Islam. There are similar items across the religion found in hudud and qisas of Islam, 10 commandments of Christianity and Judaism, the precepts of Buddhism, the niyamas and yamas of Hinduism, and from the Rehat Maryada of Sikhism. faith items. When we talk about faith, these are the items. Now it hurts. The faith items are the founding prophets, not all prophets, but the founding prophets or founders. Some religions have prophets as the person who introduced, some have founders and they are called teachers. So persons who introduced or founded the religion. It has scriptures and sacred texts containing teachings of the religion. It has the belief systems and the theologies, where the concepts of divinity and God are discussed. The belief system is a very brief one, like monotheism, polytheism, pantheism. The theology is the elaborations of that belief system. How is God? What is the power of God? The jurisdiction of God? How God is to be worshipped. That is the theology, the extended version of the belief system. You have the doctrines and the dogmas. These are the teachings of the religion. You have religious practices and procedures, the rituals and rites, including the festivals. The faith items are the essence of the religion. All religions have these faith items. Each religion understands the faith items in its own way. All religions have these items, but each religion understands each of these faith items in their own particular way, in their own unique way. So at that level of faith items, there is no negotiations. You have just to accept each other as what we are. It is not something you can insert or you can extract. Because if you do that, then it will not be that religion anymore. These are the non-negotiable. We are lakum dinukum waliyadin. I accept you as you are, you accept me as I am. No issues about that. So we move on. Let us agree to disagree. That's all. Next one, please. These are the social items. The social items are relationship with others. Their value, this is the value system and ethics. The guidelines for social behavior and relationship. Otherwise, in a family, you may have the in-laws and then, making trouble over there. 2, moral codes of conduct. The itemized prohibitions, like dietary, for example. These are the things you can eat, these are the things you cannot eat. All right. Social norms and traditions. What are acceptable and what are unacceptable conduct. Although it is an okay, but then if you start being rowdy, that is not acceptable. You have the etiquettes and the mannerism. You have good manners and bad manners. I forgot to put that. This is the etiquettes, the adab, I call it. How do you address your teachers? How do you address your parents? How do you address your seniors? Each religion has its style. How we say our greetings. The Muslim said, Assalamu alaikum. The Sikh said, Wahai Guru. Right? Yeah. So then we have laws and injunctions. Of course, laws and injunctions, like other laws, right? Religious laws, injunctions, directives. Every religion has it. Can we have the next one, please? This is just about difference between ethics and law. Both ethics and laws are mechanisms for social discipline. In fact, the concept of retribution, every religion has a concept of retribution. What will happen to you if you do good? What will happen to you if you do bad? About afterlife or rebirth? Either you have heaven and hell in the hereafter, or you have rebirth. But these are all retributions. These retributions of religion are actually mechanism for discipline. All right. So both ethics and laws are mechanism for social discipline. Wrongs in religion, what did I say there? Wrongs in religion is, wrongs in the concept of religion, it is called sin. In law, it is called crime. Laws operates through penalties. Punishments. Ethics operates through faith and conscience. Items of ethics and law sometimes overlap. Laws are enforced through legal mechanisms and procedures. Ethics are enforced through concepts. Okay, next, please. Common concepts. What we have as common or commonalities. There are parallel concepts across the religions. What's that? What's the first word? Yeah. These are the concepts that we have. All religions share in this. The parallel concepts across the religions. Common origin and parentage of humanity. All religions will have the story of the beginning of man. Whether you call it Adam and Eve, or you call it the children of the Kame in Shintoism, or you call it from the Purusha of Hinduism, or from the Geomath of Zoroastrianism, what else? Or, most important, Peter, the skandhas or the khandas of Buddhism. Right? Kinship, all religions have this kinship, brotherhood of humanity. Because we have the same origin, so we are brothers and sisters. All human beings are fellow creatures. All religions believe in that. Common human constituents. All religions said all human beings have the same contents. What do we have? Most religions said we have body, soul, and mind. The physical, the intellectual, and the spiritual. But Buddhism said the 5 skandhas. That is Sanskrit. But if in the Pali language, it is called 5 khandhas. These are the aggregates, the 5 aggregates that make a human being. But still, everyone has it. It's not like a Muslim has a different skandha or this thing, no. All humanity. Common human nature. All religions said human beings have a common fitrah or human nature. Or it's what they call Buddha nature in some, right? And the Muslims call it fitrah. There is the interdependency of things with one another. We are all interdependent. All religions say that. Okay? These common concepts makes possible coexistence and building a nation. Even if we have different race, different religion, but these are the common concepts because we are the human species. Next, please. Yeah? Yeah, I don't know how many more. This is interfaith dialogue and initiatives. Yeah, just jump off. Interfaith dialogue is a dialogue with, more at the elite level. When we are talking with people, the leadership is interfaith dialogue. But at the lower level, it is interfaith initiatives. And this is where we have to recommend the Sai Baba movement. They're doing a fantastic job at the initiative level. Next, please. Since I don't have the time, I think we'll say goodbye to this. Because no point. If the time is over, knowing a little is more dangerous. Can you go to the last one? This is too long. I'll just end that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Kamaronia. Now I call upon Dr. Suresh Govin to make his presentation. Thank you.
Respected Chair, esteemed speakers, beloved brothers and sisters, it gives me great pleasure to be here in this august audience on a subject that is really important, especially at this period in the history of our own existence. You know, one father told a child, "Son, come here. What is this?" The son said, "Aquarium." "What can you see in the aquarium?" "Oh, I can see fishes." "Very good. What type of fishes?" "Red fish, colored fish, beautiful fishes." "What else can you see?" "I can see stones. I can see plants." "What else can you see?" "I can see the seagull. I can see the octopus. I can see so many wonderful things." "Very good, son. But the only thing you forgot to say that water is there." That is the same thing. That is the thing, because without water, none of these things really matters. The real reason why we must come together is because of this water love that unites everybody. Cross-cultural literacy at most can come to the level of cognizance. You can understand, you can read, you can understand, you can probably talk, you can probably assimilate, assess. But if it doesn't come down to the level of the heart and feel, then it just remains a pure exercise. For this reason, 20 years ago, the Friendship Group for Interreligious Service was formed in Malaysia. Something like what now Madam from Singapore was saying. We also formed this 20 years ago. Our Friendship Group for Interreligious Service was made up of Angkatan Belia Islam, from representing Islam, Council of Churches, Buddhist Vihara, Hindu Sangam, and all these religious people. We all come together. For 20 years, we came together. For what purpose? You see, religion makes us good. Every religion makes everybody good. Then the question is, what is it that we are doing? What is the consequence of the goodness that we have now gained? So all the good people came together to address issues of what affects humanity. Individuality must grow to community. Community must escalate consciousness to humanity. But if we remain just at the community level, we'll just remain at the community level unless it comes to humanity level. Once we are at the humanity level, we feel, we get connected. We, regardless of race and religion, we want to know because we respect you. Whatever faith that you have, we respect you. So these people came together and decided, hey, one thing that affects everybody is disease. So we got all the doctors together, multiracial doctors together, went into rural communities, went into rural areas, and just gave medical help in various parts of Malaysia. We did that for many, many years. Subsequently, we had many, many programs that we came together to give aid to people. Our youth, various religious youth came together. What is this one problem that is affecting the youth today? Addiction, alcoholism, drugs. These are things that's affecting. Why not good people come together, we said. And therefore we came. We came together and we instituted a training program. Professor Osman, do you know that we have trained 13,000 students in University of Malaya by the Friendship Group for Interreligious Service all these years, training them to become aware of the issues of drugs, issues of alcohol. Why? Because it affects everybody. So good people, being religious, must have a consequence. Whatever belief you have, it's okay. But what is the consequence of your belief is what that matters. And that, I think, is the greatest literacy that you can give to the whole humanity. People can read that literacy. Hey, I like to be religious. Hey, I want to follow this. Why? Because of you, I feel inspired. Therefore, if we can give a gush of inspiration in this world, that's fantastic. Then we formed Interfaith Orchestra. We brought all these various people from various religious groups and had orchestra. We played the orchestra in various parts of Malaysia, and during the rehearsal, we got to know each other. We got to know their religion. We got to know why you do this. Why you do this? Because to know you, to understand you, I need to know your belief. And then when I know your belief, my curiosity comes up. I begin to have an ownership. Then that is how relationship develops. This guy went into a restaurant, and he had his whole community was there, but there's one chef that was not in his community, was sitting in the restaurant. He got very irritated. He called the waiter, give everybody free food, but don't give this chap food. Waiter said, okay, he gave everybody food. But that person was not insulted, was not humiliated. Then he called him again, give everybody free drinks. Everybody was given free drinks except that one individual. He also was not insulted. He also was not humiliated. He said, come, give chips to everybody. Chips, you know, the potato chips. And everybody was given except him. He still was not insulted. He was not humiliated. He called the waiter, hey, why is he not getting insulted and humiliated? He said, sir, he's the owner of the shop. Once you are owner, you do not get insulted. Once you're owner, you will not get humiliated. Once you own love, love has no boundaries. Love has no time. Love is timeless. This is the feeling of love that we must. This is the highest literacy that ASEAN can. I like to echo what Professor Osman Bakar said. ASEAN must show model, must show the world how religious people in ASEAN are living together. This can be a model for the world. If we all come together, work together, good people coming together, addressing issues that you have in your respective countries. You know, my dear friends, I have been to Pakistan where 30,000 people were buried alive. I was there giving medicine. The earth was still shaking. Earthquake was shaking. The whole buildings came down. At that point of time, when I asked this one Muslim gentleman, where is your father? Where is your mother? He said, I don't know. They're all buried. Where are your children? There. Where are your shops? There. He doesn't have a tomorrow. He doesn't know how to think of tomorrow because he doesn't have a tomorrow. It is at that point of time when we can see the real humanity, the feeling that without anything else is just single human existence. And if we can touch people of this nature, I think there's nothing else better, greater literacy than to demonstrate that religion has power. Every religion has unique values. And when we come together, we can show the next generation that that religious people are here and we all can live together in great harmony. Religious conflicts cannot exist. People who have prejudiced and biased minds with confined thoughts cannot exist. We must irrigate them with love and understanding. That is our primary duty, and we should rise like a renaissance and create this world, a better world for the future. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. You really cheered all us up and inspired us to think and to act and to apply religious literacy. Thank you, Dr. Suresh. Now I call on Dr. Matthias Ho to make his presentation, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rintias, for the opportunity. So I was really enjoying hearing all the presentation before, because many of that actually already cover my presentation, and I think that's really show that we in ASEAN, I think we have the same frequency in our mind. So I think I'll skip the first slide. Can we next? Yeah. So I was really glad that Professor Osman Abu Bakar actually started by talking about literacy, because that's, I think, also how I began my reflection. When we talk about cross-cultural religious literacy, I really agree that I think we need to talk about how is our literacy when we deal with people who are different from us. And one way that sometimes I think about the cross-cultural religious literacy is like in digital literacy or in financial literacy, meaning that what does it mean if we need to have a digital literacy or financial literacy? In a way, it means that how we can actually engage in the financial world or in a digital world and know how to make ourselves actually productive in that world. So if we are actually live in a plural society, in a diverse society, how can we engage in a productive and positive ways in the society? We need to have a certain literacy. So in a way, what I'm going to share is actually like an example of how we try to implement the idea of cross-cultural religious literacy in Indonesia for the last 4 years in the program that we do. And the program, in a way, is not about training people to become a religious experts, because you already have a lot of great institutions on that. But this one is really about building your literacy to be able to engage positively, productively in a multi-faith and multicultural society. Next. So the program in Indonesia, actually after we are doing this for 4 years on cross-cultural religious literacy, what we see is that the most important outcome of this is actually building social capital. In particular, it's actually about social trust. And why is that important? Because the theory of the social capital is that the trust can be produced actually through collaboration. But the difficulty is that collaboration itself requires trust. So it's like a circle. That's why Robert Putnam, one of the scholars who researched Italy for 20 years, what he found out is that in society, sometimes what you find is either a virtuous circle of the society of a high trust with a high collaboration, and it creates a circle where you have a collaboration and then creates trust. But then if you already have a lack of trust, it will be a very little collaboration, which will further reduce the trust in the society. So the question is that how we can move on from little trust to higher trust society, so that we can create this virtuous circle of trust and collaboration. And the other things that's important is that when we talk about social capital, there are two distinctive social capital. One is called the bonding social capital. The other one is the bridging social capital. By talking about the bonding social capital is that if I'm maybe in a church with my church members, I may have a very great trust with the member of the church because I have this bonding social capital. It's a bonding, it's a trust between people of the same backgrounds. But do I have the bridging social capital? Do I trust my Muslim neighbors? Do I trust my Buddhist neighbors, for example? That's really a different matter because we can have a very high bonding social capital, but we have a very low bridging social capital. And that's where actually the research shows in a diverse society, what you really need is actually a high bridging social capital. So what we are trying to do, we are experimenting in Indonesia with this concept of of cross-cultural religious literacy, is how can we develop a systematic program so that we can create that, we can cultivate certain competencies so that people have this literacy to be able to develop not just relations, but actually collaborations, how to move beyond dialogue that the professor already said, that I think this is about not just interfaith dialogue, but interfaith initiative. How can we move from dialogue to initiative? So next. So I think we can skip this. I already mentioned. Next. 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 So one of the biggest obstacle, and it was already mentioned many times, is about prejudice. Prejudice is really the biggest roadblock for us to build trust, because with prejudice, we already become suspicious of other people and we don't want to collaborate. So what we do is that one of the things that we consider in developing the program is what is called this intergroup contact theory. I'm not going to go into this but basically it's a well-established theory from social psychology about how to reduce prejudice by focusing when you bring people from two different groups who may have prejudice. It's not just about bringing these two groups come together and then all of a sudden the prejudice will be reduced. No, but there are certain conditions, and at least the 4 conditions that need to be fulfilled in the design of the program so that you can actually get the best result of how to reduce the prejudice. And we take into consideration of these 4 conditions in developing the program. Next. So I'm going to, within the remaining time I have, I'll see to what extent I can share some of the examples of how we try to implement this. So the first one is that this is the first effort that we did. We began in 2021 during the COVID period. We developed the concept into a training program for madrasah and school teachers. Next. So we began the program with a 1-week online training. It's a 1-week online training, but also not just with the self-study, but with the Zoom live interaction. The live interaction is very important because in that course, for example, Leimena Institute was an organization actually established by a national initiative of the National Churches Association in Indonesia. But why were we able to train the first year we focused on madrasah teachers? We're able to do it because we always collaborate with different organizations. We have a partnership with the National Mosque, Istiqlal in Indonesia. We collaborate a lot, for example, with the State Islamic University. So in a class, in one virtual class, maybe the teachers, we focus on the teachers. We have 200, 500 teachers. The Muslims, for example, they will learn more about Islam, but they will also have opportunity to learn about, for example, Christianity from pastors, Buddhism from Buddhists. And the same way, for Christian teachers actually have the opportunity to learn about Islam from ulama. And it's very important for the Christians to have that interaction, real interaction with the Muslim ulama, so that they feel safe. They can ask any questions they want about Islam from actually the believers of that religion. Next. So we got a pretty good response. So far we've been training about 2,000-3,000 teachers per year. Next. So that's why collaboration is very important. We always collaborate. In every classes we collaborate. So right now we already have about 40 organizations that we partner. I think it was Dr. Aldrin who mentioned that it's very important for the people to see that their leaders are actually in positive relation. So we want to show to the people that we are in good relation with the Buddhist Teachers Association, with the Hindus, with the National Mosque and others, so that the people can see that, okay, the leaders are actually setting the example. Next. And so I think this is the last example I'm going to show is that after the teachers take the introduction course, they have the opportunity to take a more advanced course where they can actually work together, develop a lesson plans on how they can teach the students. Now, they are not going to create a new subject. But for example, a Christian education course, now they will be able to develop the course and then teach the students in the schools, maybe by taking a positive example of how Christians interact with the Muslims. Because after taking this course, now they realize it's important to talk about this. Now we have a math teacher who can actually talk about tolerance in a math course using statistics, for example. So next. So we also invite them in a course to visit different religious places because, for example, maybe many of the Christian teachers have never been to a mosque. Maybe the Muslim teachers have never visited a Buddhist temple. What's important is the experience of being welcome. That this is not a dangerous or threatening place, but they are actually welcomed warmly by the people. And then lastly, next. After they are done with the course, we encourage them to send us video on how they use the lesson plans to teach in the classroom. And surprisingly, voluntarily, they are actually sending us the videos on how they teach the courses, or maybe how the Christian, there is now actually a Christian school teacher working together with the madrasah teacher to develop a program for the students to visit one another, and that's actually a new thing for them. So I think I'll close with that. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ho, for sharing your experiences and projects in Indonesia. Now I call upon our final speaker, Dr. Peter Chang, to give his presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pidias. In the interest of time, I will try to be as brief as I can. I just want to begin by thanking Professor Osman Bakar and also Professor Onia for the invitation. I've got slides. Do I have my slides on? Okay, yep. All right, this is basically a Malaysian perspective to what we are discussing right now. Slide 2, please. I'm going to give an overview and then going to address the spheres of engagement in which this challenge that we have, and then I'll give some conclusion. Let's go straight to the overview. I just returned from Shanghai yesterday from a China-ASEAN forum where we actually mentioned about ASEAN Community Vision of 2045. China was very interested in this vision. They have, with ASEAN also, work together to want to achieve their own vision. They call it the shared future for humanity. And a part of that vision is this cultural capital, people-to-people social trust cultivation. So this is a much broader project, I think, beyond ASEAN itself. We have a lot to show. And coming back to Malaysia, Malaysia is truly Asia or ASEAN. We celebrate our unity and diversity, but we clearly know, for those of us who live here in Malaysia, we do face some challenges as well in actually realizing or preserving the unity in this beautiful diversity that we have. And the challenges that we face, I split them into 4 different spheres. The first sphere, the next slide please, is the political domain. I think at the political domain, the political leadership is absolutely critical. Some of our fellow panelists have already shared that the community leaders, political leaders, religious leaders have to show it, have to lead the way. It's a lot of symbolism, but this symbolism are absolutely critical. In this regard, our Prime Minister has played a remarkable, instrumental and critical role. not only here in Malaysia, but also on the international stage. I can tell you back in China, in Beijing, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's agreement coming together with President Xi Jinping to promote the Global Civilization Initiative is also a crucial move. It sends to the world that the Islamic and the Confucian world are willing to work together, to coexist together, to find a way in which we, in this changing world, to frame a new world order, a post-Western world order where Confucianism and the Islamic world can coexist. And this is absolutely critical to let the world know that our leaders are committed to that. So political leadership are so crucial. We know it so well. Here in Malaysia, our political arena sometimes is rife with very divisive political rhetorics that is so damaging to our social fabric. We really need political leaders that can rise above the kind of very narrow racial or ethnic interests to work for the common good. So I just want to emphasize that political leadership is absolutely critical. The next level of engagement is academia. In that regard, I really want to thank Professor Osman Bakar and Professor Onia's leadership here in IIUM that has set the stage. It is absolutely critical as well. Again, I say, intellectual leadership is crucial. We need to set the mindset, the intellectual framework in which we can afford to go forth and foster trust, foster faith, foster confidence in one another. The intellectual leadership. So many of you have been, the leaders here has been schooled in the Temple University. I'm so glad to know that you guys have brought the experience that you have from Temple back to Malaysia to help us to shape the intellectual landscape in which we can have more interfaith, intercultural, and interreligious coexistence. And there is an international, intergenerational challenge as well. I'm sure Professor Osman Bakar and Professor Onia is looking into the room and hoping that the future leaders from the room will arise and pass on the baton and continue to carry on this struggle. So let me just say that the political arena is crucial, and the academic and intellectual setting like this in IIUM is as critical as well. Now the third slide, please. Professor Onia, the third slide, please. Professor Onia has mentioned that this political and intellectual is elite. It is true, it is elite. But we have to bring it down to the grassroots. And for that, we want to thank works like our sisters from Singapore, our brother from the Philippines, and Dr. Suresh, and others, who has gone down to the ground to build bridges, to touch the hearts of others, to open minds. And that we must continue to do. We have been doing that. A lot of churches, a lot of temples, a lot of mosques are involved in that. And we must continue this grassroots movement. And we must continue to forge and find the common ground and the greater good. And my last point is this. There is a lot that is lacking in terms of understanding between civilization and religious traditions. We got to break that barrier down. But I'm equally concerned about the intra-faith dialogue component. Within our own community, we know of people who are not necessarily receptive to this kind of engagement. Our sister from Singapore knows it very well. I'm sure Dr. Alvin knows it also, that within both the Islamic community, within the Christian community, within the Buddhist community, our own, whom we call our own fellow believers, are not committed to this at all. And we got to work hard within our community to persuade that those within our community would be able to rise above our narrow religious worldview to embrace the other. a good question came up from the floor. How do you engage the extremists? And I think our sister from Singapore answered it well. Not everybody. We will have to live with some extremists. Not every extremist will be receptive to the conversations that we are holding right today. But what we have to make sure is the mainstream, the middle pathway, the silent majority must continue to control the narrative. We must not let the extremists from the fringes of both sides of every community to hijack our national narrative. We must fight to protect the middle ground, the voice of the moderate, the values of the silent majority. The most of us want to coexist. Most of us want to work for the common good. Most of us want to be able to celebrate our diversity. But there are the minorities that are very vocal that is shaking the board. So we got to really work hard to save that. Let me just close. 3 points. Political and intellectual leadership is absolutely critical. For that, we are very thankful for our Prime Minister and also leadership like Professor Osman and Professor O'Neill. But we must continue to sustain our grassroots engagement. For that, we're thankful for Dr. Alvin's work and our sister from Singapore, Dr. Suresh. But also, as we build bridges across civilizational boundaries, we must also build bridges within our own community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Peter Chang. You have basically said what we are all discussing here, and that we are living in this global age. Rather, we are entering into a new age of AI, which is challenging us, which is changing us to become post-human future. Even people are talking about that we are entering into the age of post-human future. And this age is challenging. I tell my students, we talk about Jahiliyyah, but now we are facing a compounded Jahiliyyah, a compounded ignorance, which is even a bigger challenge. I will open up the floor for 5 minutes to take 2 or 3 questions. If there are anyone, please raise your hands. Yes. Mirselu.
Okay, very simple one, because this weekend we are gearing up for the...
But please tell to whom you are addressing your question,
actually,
no lecture.
In general, anybody, because we are having the ASEAN conference coming, 26 to 28. We are expecting some world leaders to come. We are expecting probably if Donald Trump is coming. So from your perspective, how do you, what is your hope that from what we discuss here, can we reach to the powers that be and become something actionable?
Got it, thank you. Anyone will go first? Suresh? Sister, come
on. No point in talking about those people. You see, we pay too much attention and we give too much power to them. And we waste a lot of our time talking about what others have done wrong or what others should do, but we have not done enough thinking about what we should do. So our, what I call membazir usia, we are wasting our existence on earth by finding faults and quarreling with what people do rather than doing things that we ought to do for this world. Why are they the leaders and we are not the leaders? I'm sorry, I took a different point because I'm just sick and tired of people finding fault with other people but not doing enough by themselves to do something good for this world. I just want, I'm in Confucianism, and there's a model, the model of, like in Islam, we have Uswah Hasanah, the Prophet. In Confucianism, you have the Chunzu, the noble character. And this is the epitome of the Chunzu, of the, my good friend.
Thank you, Professor Nia. I do travel abroad a fair bit, not only as a representative of Malaysia, but also as ASEAN. And I can tell you that there is ASEAN for all faults, has some fascination, has some strength, and some beauty in ASEAN. You know, the rest of the world is going through some very, very difficult changes. EU, for example, is going through some very traumatic changes. And for better or for worse, they have looked to ASEAN as a body of relative stability. And we do have something to celebrate about. We sure have some difficulties within ASEAN. We have disputes, resolve conflicts, but there is also a lot of strength within ASEAN. At this time, we're going through so much changes. I think, despite all our shortcomings, the world is looking for some around the horizon arenas where they can learn from. I think ASEAN, we should really lift up to our potential, and Malaysia should lift up to our potential. We have a lot of strength. In our diversity, we have a strength. We can present a model of coexistence. As the panels earlier have said, Malaysia, ASEAN, Asia is the cradle of human civilization. For centuries, we have coexisted. And I think we must seize that moment and continue to shape this new century that we call ASEAN century.
Thank you. Dr. Ho, yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to agree with what Professor Konya said. I think I completely agree with your point, because I think one of the things that always inspired me is the saying that rather than cursing the darkness, we should light a candle. I think in a way, again, I really want to commend what International Islamic University Malaysia is doing, and Professor Osman Bakar, by taking the initiative to host this ASEAN Cross-Cultural Religious Literacy Forum, because I think we just had this discussion that His Excellency Minister said the dinner, I think it was in June or something like that, just 3 or 4 months ago. And then IIUM actually took this initiative to do this, and out of the so many things in the ASEAN 2045 document, and IIUM is willing to focus on this one thing about building inclusive, cohesive society and doing something concrete about this and convening a discussion about this and making a statement that this is an important thing and put it in a regional and global context, and that we need to move forward. I think that's in a way is really how to not just condemning the darkness, but really trying to light the candle and then show the way forward. And this is the way forward. So again, I want to commend that this is a very important initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think then I'm going to close the session now. Thank you for all the panelists for sharing their views with us, and I pass it over to the organizers. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Imtiaz and all panelists for the engaging and insightful discussion. We will now proceed with the presentation of tokens of appreciation to our panelists and moderators. So I would like to invite Honourable Dato Rector to the stage to present the tokens of appreciation. First, I invite Professor Dr. Kamar Onia binti Kamaruzaman. Allah. I invite Professor Kamar Onia to receive the token. Next, I invite Professor Dr. Suresh Kumar. Next, I invite Professor Dr. Imtiaz Yusof. Please welcome Mr. Matthias Ho. And finally, Dr. Peter Chang. Thank you, Dato Rector, and our esteemed panelists. You may now return to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude our program today and to seek the blessings from the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, I invite Brother Muhammad Hafiz Bukhari from the Kuliah of Education to lead the dua recitation. فَلْيَتَفَضَّلْ مَعْجُورًا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي جعل أول يومنا هذا صلاحا وأوسطه فلاحا وآخره نجاحا والصلاة والسلام على آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى. O Allah, we beg thee of all good things which pertains to this day and days hereafter. You have bestowed on us the greatness of your ni'mah in which we could never imagine, and you have protected us from harm when we cannot detach ourselves from it. We have done deeds in which only you have the knowledge of its goods or its bad. O Allah, on this glorious day, we express our gratitude to you for allowing us to attend this event on this auspicious day. We seek your blessings for progress of this event from the beginning until the end. Make it a stage for further prosperity and progress, and be of great benefit and contribution to the development of our people in Malaysia and the whole of the Ummah. O Allah, make the days that we have gone through continue with your mercy and end with your forgiveness, and also make the days we have gone through with guidance and end with victory of excellence. Make us a responsible intellectual and grant us valuable knowledge that will be beneficial for mankind in order to gain your mercy. Open the four ways for opportunities that benefit our nation, country, and the whole of the Ummah. O Allah, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram, bless us with your tawfiq and hidayah for us to continue to do good deeds that receive your pleasure and a harmonious life that you bless, and guide us to greatness, peace, glory, and prosperity in this world and the hereafter. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakumullahu khairan, Ustaz. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a photography session. Please remain seated, and I invite everyone to turn around and look up. That's all. Turn around and look up. Oh, sorry. We've changed the plan. Okay, so please stand. Turn around and look up.